I'm Jemima Montgomery. Today, I buried the only person who ever truly loved me, my grandmother, Evelyn Montgomery. We were at a private cemetery in the foggy hills of Vermont, the kind of place where the silence feels heavy. But as I turned to leave the graveside, the family's longtime estate lawyer, Elias Thorne, grabbed my wrist. His grip was tight, desperate. He leaned in, smelling of old paper and peppermint, and whispered, Jemima, your grandmother knew this day was coming. She didn't die of a stroke. If you want to stay alive, meet me at the old library on 4th Street in 1 hour. Do not tell your mother. Do not tell your uncle. Their grief is a performance. He vanished into the fog before I could even blink. My heart wasn't just pounding. It was trying to break out of my chest. I looked over at my mother, Diane, who was dabbing her eyes with a silk handkerchief, and my Uncle Victor, who was already checking his watch. For the first time in my life, I didn't see my family, I saw predators. Before we get into the chilling discovery I made that night, let me know in the comments, from which part of the world are you watching this story today? And if you've ever felt like your own family was wearing a mask, stick around, because what I found behind that dark door changed everything. I waited. I sat in my car until the last of the black SUVs crawled away from the cemetery. My mind was a whirlwind. My grandmother was 82. Sure, but she was sharp. She did crosswords in pen. She hiked 3 miles every morning. Aunt sudden stroke and just didn't sit right. I drove to the 4th Street Library. It's an old Victorian building, half hidden by overgrown ivy. The front door was propped open with a brick. Inside, Elias Thorne was waiting in the shadows of the history section. He didn't say, I'm sorry for your loss. He just handed me a thick, manila envelope, Jemima, he said, his voice trembling. Evelyn came to me 3 weeks ago. She was scared. She started noticing a metallic taste in her morning oatmeal. She thought she was getting dementia because she kept forgetting where she put her keys. But then she found her spare set in your mother's purse. He opened a file. Inside was a lab report. Not from a hospital, but from a private toxicology firm. She sent me a sample of her heart medication, Elias continued. It wasn't blood pressure medicine, Jemima. It was a high-dose arsenic derivative. Slow, methodical. It mimics the symptoms of a stroke over time. I felt sick. My own mother, the woman who tucked me in at night, was feeding her own mother poison? Why? I managed to choke out. Because of the Montgomery Trust, Elias said. Evelyn was planning to bypass Diane and Victor entirely. She was going to leave the entire estate, the house, the land, the $40 million fund directly to you. But there's a catch. She created a dead man's switch, a digital vault that only opens with your biometric scan. If she died naturally, Diane would have time to pressure you into signing over power of attorney. If you sign those papers, you're the next one on the list. I drove home to the Montgomery estate in a trance. The house is a sprawling mansion, but that night it looked like a tomb. As I walked through the front door, the smell of expensive lilies hit me. My mother, Diane, was sitting in the parlor with a glass of sherry. She looked up, her face perfectly composed. Jemima, darling, where have you been? We have so much to discuss. Beside her sat Dr. Eris Vance. He was the family physician and my mother's close friend. He was the one who signed the death certificate. He was the one who told me Grandma died peacefully in her sleep. Now, seeing him there, his tan skin and white teeth looked like a shark's. Jemima, Dr. Vance said, his voice smooth as silk. I was just telling your mother that with all the stress of the funeral, you should take something to help you sleep. You look peaked. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small orange bottle. My stomach turned. I'm fine, Eris, I said, keeping my voice level. I just need to clear my head. Actually, sweetheart, my mother interrupted, standing up. She held a stack of legal documents. Before you go to bed, we need to handle the boring stuff. Your grandmother's estate is complicated. To keep the taxes from eating it up, we need you to sign these management transition forms. It's just a formality. It gives me and Victor the authority to handle the heavy lifting so you can focus on your studies. I looked at the papers. I recognized the language from what Elias had warned me about. It wasn't management. It was a total surrender of my rights. If I signed this, Diane could commit me to a psychiatric ward, take the money, and I'd never be heard from again. I'll look at them in the morning, Mom, I said, trying to walk toward the stairs. But Uncle Victor stepped out from the hallway, blocking my path. He's a big man. a failed businessman who had spent his life waiting for his mother to die. "The morning is too late, Jay," Victor said, his voice dropping an octave. "The bank needs these by 9 a.m., just sign. We're family. Don't you trust us?" The way he said trust sent a shiver down my spine. I looked from my mother's cold eyes to the doctor's clinical stare, to my uncle's looming frame. I was trapped in a house with 3 murderers. I left my favorite pen in Grandma's guest cottage, I lied. It was a gift from her. I can't sign something this important without it. It's a superstition. Give me 10 minutes. I didn't wait for them to argue. I bolted out the back door toward the small stone cottage at the edge of the property where Grandma spent her final days. As I crossed the lawn, a flashlight flickered from the neighbor's bushes. It was Mrs. Gable. She was 80 years old and had lived next door for 40 years. "Jemima, over here," she hissed. I ran to the fence. Mrs. Gable looked terrified. "You haven't eaten anything in that house, have you?" she asked. "No, why?" "I saw them," she whispered. 2 weeks ago. I was out late looking for my cat. I saw your mother and that doctor out by the old well. They were burning bags of clothes. And Evelyn's tea sets. And Jemima, I saw your mother's face. She wasn't crying. She was laughing." Mrs. Gable handed me a small, leather-bound diary through the fence. "Evelyn threw this over the hedge the night before she died," she said. "She told me if I saw the black hearse pull up, I had to give this to you. And only you." I took the diary and ran into the cottage, locking the door behind me. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely turn the pages. It wasn't a diary. It was an evidence log. Grandmother had been playing a dangerous game. She knew she was being poisoned, but she didn't know who to trust in the local police because Uncle Victor was the police commissioner's golf partner. Inside the diary, she had taped a small micro SD card. The last entry read, "They think I'm fading. They think the dementia is working. Today, I hid the recording device in the base of the parlor lamp. If you're reading this, Jemima, the truth is on that card. They killed me for a life they didn't earn. Don't let them have it. Use the well." The property had an old, stone-wishing well that had been capped off in the 1920s. I realized Grandma wasn't talking about water. She was talking about a hiding place. I heard footsteps on the gravel outside. "Jemima, darling, it's been 10 minutes," my mother's voice called out. It sounded sweet, but there was a sharp edge to it now, like a blade hidden in velvet. I tucked the diary and the micro SD card into my coat. I climbed out the back window of the cottage and stayed low, crawling through the damp grass toward the old well. I pulled at the heavy wooden cover. It groaned, but it moved. Inside, resting on a small ledge just 3 feet down, was a waterproof pelican case. I grabbed it and sprinted back toward the main house, not to go inside, but to get to my car. "Where is she?" I heard Victor shout from the porch. I reached my car, fumbled with the keys, and dived inside just as Victor rounded the corner. He slammed his fist against my window, his face contorted with rage. "Get out of the car, Jemima." I put it in reverse, floored it, and didn't stop until I was at the local precinct. Not the one in our town, but the state police barracks 2 towns over. I sat in a cold interview room with 2 state investigators. We plugged the micro SD card into a laptop. The audio was grainy at first, just the sound of a fire crackling. Then voices. "How much longer, Eris?" That was my mother. "A week, maybe 2, Dr. Vance replied. "The arsenic is building up perfectly. The heart palpitations will look like a standard cardiac event. No one will question an 82-year-old's heart failing. And the girl? That was Uncle Victor. Jemima is getting suspicious. She's always at the cottage. Once Evelyn is gone," my mother said, her voice cold and flat, "we'll put Jemima on the sedatives. A few months of her acting erratic. A few failed exams. We'll have her declared incompetent. We'll control the trust, and she'll live out her days in a nice, quiet facility where she can't make trouble." The investigators sat in silence. I felt like I was floating outside my own body. Hearing your own mother plan your erasure is a sound you never forget. But there was more in the Pelican case. Inside were my grandmother's real will, a set of keys to a safe deposit box I never knew existed, and the final blow, life insurance policies. My mother had taken out on me only a month ago. They weren't just going to lock me away. They were waiting for the right time to finish me off, too. The police wanted to move in immediately, but I told them we needed more. We needed them to admit it. I agreed to go back. I wore a wire hidden under my morning dress. When I walked back into the house, the atmosphere was electric. Diane, Victor, and Dr. Vance were standing in the foyer. "I have the pen," I said, my voice trembling, which wasn't an act. "I'm ready to sign." We went into the parlor. I sat at the mahogany desk. My mother placed the papers in front of me. "Before I sign," I said, looking up at her, "I just have one question. Did Grandma suffer?" The room went dead silent. My mother leaned down, her face inches from mine. The mask finally fell away. Her eyes were like two pieces of flint. She was old, Jemima. She was holding on to a fortune she didn't know how to use. "We did her a favor. And if you're as smart as she thought you were, you'll sign those papers and we can all move on. Don't make this difficult. I'd hate for you to have a breakdown so soon after the funeral." "So you did kill her," I whispered. Victor stepped forward, his hand heavy on my shoulder. "What does it matter? She's in the ground. Now sign, before I lose my patience." "I can't sign," I said, standing up and backing away. "Because I know about the arsenic, Mom. I know about the well. And I know about the life insurance you took out on me." Diane's face twisted into something demonic. "You little brat. You should have just taken the pills." She nodded to Victor. He lunged for me, but the front door didn't just open, it exploded. "State police! Don't move!" The parlor was suddenly swarming with tactical gear and flashlights. Victor tried to run through the kitchen, but he was tackled into the china cabinet. Dr. Vance dropped his medical bag and threw his hands up, pleading for a deal before the cuffs were even on him. My mother, she didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just stared at me with a look of pure, unadulterated hatred as they led her away in chains. It's been 6 months since that night. The Montgomery estate is different now. I didn't sell it. Instead, I used the dead man's switch money to fulfill my grandmother's secret dream. She always hated how the wealthy elite in our town looked down on the struggling families in the valley. So the mansion is no longer a family home. It's the Evelyn Montgomery Foundation for Truth and Justice. We provide legal aid and forensic accounting for people being swindled out of their inheritances by predatory family members. Uncle Victor and Dr. Vance are both serving life sentences for first-degree murder. My mother, because she was the mastermind, is in a maximum security facility. She sends me letters sometimes. I never open them. I burn them in the same parlor fireplace where she once planned my death. I went to visit Grandma's grave yesterday. I didn't bring lilies. I brought a single red rose and her old crossword book, completed in pen. I realized that greed doesn't just break a family, it reveals what was never there to begin with. But for every person who tries to dim your light to steal your gold, there's a way to fight back. You just have to be willing to look behind the dark doors. I'm Jemima Montgomery, and I'm finally free. If this story made you double-check who you're sitting across from at dinner, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments. Would you have gone back into that house? I'll see you in the next one.